1 hour. 2. The awkwardness stretched out like a net, trapping us both in its bonds. The Necromancer sat in front of the fireplace, pretending to read 501 utility spells, as she watched me pretend to sleep. At this rate, I was in for a long stay. The book drifted shut, and the Necromancer stood, but she didn't move. She stared into the fire. Something unseen burned away. Minutes passed, and she didn't so much as twitch. I was starting to wonder if she had passed out when she turned with a decisive abruptness. She strode over and gave me a look that bored into my soul. "How much did you see?" I met her gaze. Assuming that I was supposed to find the book, there was little point in lying. Until the spell worked on the rat. "What did you think?" "That this ivory is headed down a dark path, one that will steal her innocence with power." I waited for the retort, the insistence that she was a good pony, that she had only wandered into the clutches of darkness for the greater good. But it didn't come. The Necromancer said nothing. Neither did I. One could say silently staring at each other was becoming a habit. The Necromancer spun and headed for the door. At some point, the soreness became numbness, and the numbness, nothingness. A rather fragile nothingness, as every little sound, from the crackle of the fire to the groaning of the wood, brought me back to awareness. I normally don't have issues sleeping in unfamiliar places, but I suppose up until then I'd never really been stuck in a Necromancer's house, surrounded by zombies. I wore no shackles, but my subconscious could see that the situation was quite clear. The door creaked, and I cracked an eye. The Necromancer trotted back in and stomped in front of the cabinet. She gave the lock an intense stare, as though seeing it for the first time. After a few minutes, she turned and left again. This repeated several times over the course of the next few hours. Each time she came back, I wondered if maybe I really had legitimately run into something I wasn't supposed to, and that she might be contemplating finishing me off. I started coming up with ways to get the drop on her, most of which involved me hiding behind or above the door. I was wondering just how good a weapon one of those ancient shares would make when the cabinet doors flew open. The journal sprang out, making a short arc before settling in front of me with a dull thud. I raised an eyebrow. "What?" "You should know the truth before you judge." She looked at me, and my mind stumbled over itself. There was something barely present, lurking just under the hardness and the bluntness. Vulnerability. Hope. Fear. Part of me had pegged her as a patient and talented actress. The rest wasn't so sure. A pony isolated from society would have more than a few issues acquiring the necessary practice. Unless, of course, acting was her special talent. And even then, who would seriously choose to ignore her own cutie mark, run off into the wild, and become a feared necromancer? "Well, are you going to just sit there or what?" The necromancer's voice was firm again. I watched her closely, and very deliberately moved a forehoof to the corner of the book. It took several minutes before I found where I'd left off. "Dear Journal, it worked! Cotton is alive and well. I even got my cutie mark while I was doing it. It's something coming out of a grave, because I'm good at making things alive again. I was worried because Moss just stared at me and Cotton for a long time, but then he jumped up and hugged me, and didn't let go for almost forever. He called me the best friend ever, and pointed out my new cutie mark. It was a good feeling. Ivory." I blinked and reread the entry 2 more times. Here was a pony who was not only unfazed by necromancy, but seemed to encourage it. It felt wrong. Like the dark magic itself had left a bubbling stain on the paper. Regardless of just how unenviable a position it would have been to object to a pony's cutie mark, as a friend, I felt he should have intervened. Dear Journal, today, Prideful wasn't being loud and annoying. He even looked sad. When I asked Moss, he said Prideful's grandma died. I thought I'd be happy to see something bad finally happen to that meanie, but this just feels empty. Even after all he's done, I'm sad for him. Is that weird? Ivory. I glanced up, and the Necromancer met my gaze. There was that weariness again, like it was a foregone conclusion that I would reach another foregone conclusion. When I stopped to think about it, I realized that was because it was probably true. My eyes dropped, and I hastily returned to the journal. Dear Journal, at lunch, one of Prideful's friends came over and started asking me about cotton. I guess they finally heard. I don't know if the spell will work on ponies. I mean, I did the calculations, and in theory, I can just scale up all the magic. But I can't help but feel I'm missing something. I'm going to recheck the formula. Ivory. Dear Journal, Prideful came to me today and demanded to know about the spell. The funeral is coming up soon, and he wanted me to try it before that happens. Moss says I shouldn't help him. But if I have a chance to end another pony's suffering, should I take it? Prideful says he'll let me in tomorrow, after school. Ivory. I shook my head. Everything about the situation screamed train wreck. Everything. Yet there was nothing malicious or ulterior about their endeavor. Had I been in the same position a year or so ago, I might have followed the same line of logic. Could I really blame these near foals for trying to make the best of their situation? The next page was tear-stained. Dear Journal, Moss was right. I don't know what I missed, but it was bad. The spell brought Prideful's grandma back, but it wasn't right. She was saying weird things, and didn't even recognize Prideful. They tried to talk for 5 minutes, but nothing was getting through. The whole time I could see Prideful's face getting redder and redder. Then he said I did it on purpose. I would never do that. Then he tried to hit me, but his grandma protected me and beat him up. I think she was going to kill him, but I cast a counterspell before she could. We took Prideful to the clinic, and every pony was looking weird at me and whispering. I said I was sorry, but they just kept staring. I ran home and hid in my room. What do I do? Ivory. Dear Journal, Mom said I'm not going to school today. I don't know why. She keeps giving me this look. It's almost like she's scared. But that can't be. Can it? I tried to study some magic, but I can't focus. I need to talk to Moss. He always knows what to do. Maybe I can see him at school tomorrow. Ivory. Dear Journal, I'm not going to school anymore, and no pony will say why. I asked Mom if I could go see Moss, and she said I can't see him anymore. Is it the Prideful thing? I just wanted to help. I started talking to Feather. I know she's just a foal, but I need some pony who will listen, even if she can't understand me. Ivory. I reeled, my heart giving under the crushing force of an invisible punch. Dear Journal, I snuck out today. I heard Mom and Dad say Moss was in the clinic, and I had to see him. He wasn't awake. They said he fell off a cliff on the way to the forest. But he knows the path too well for that, and I could have sworn there were hoof marks on his stomach. I think I know who did it, but no pony was willing to listen. Maybe when he's awake, they'll listen to him. Ivory. Dear Journal, every pony is gone. I went to Moss's room, and it was empty. I went to his house, and it was empty too. I felt like I wanted to collapse. But then Prideful and his goons started chasing me. They were throwing stones and calling me an evil sorcerer. I'm not evil. I just wanted to help. I ran all the way home, but every pony was gone there too. Mom, Dad, Feather, the servants, they all just vanished. I don't know what to do. I guess at least Prideful left. They couldn't get past the gate. But I know they'll be back, with more, and then they'll try to do those horrible things they said they were going to do to me. I need to get out of here. I know! The forest! Maybe Moss will be there. Please, let Moss be there. Ivory. That was the last page of the journal. I stared at the back cover. No extra writing materialized. I opened my mouth, but something was caught in my throat. Well, have you condemned me yet? There was a certain edge to the Necromancer's voice, like a fight was inevitable. My eyes remained on the journal, and the barest whisper escaped my lips. No. What? I looked up, and was met with a face that couldn't be more baffled, even if she tried. I was an alien creature, disguised as a pony, because a real pony would have chosen the right answer. I cleared my throat. My findings are inconclusive. Would you tell me more? As she hesitated, I saw something on her face, there only for the briefest of moments. A foal-like hope, buried beneath years of solitude and pain. You would listen to this old mare's tale. I took a deep breath and nodded. I had to know. Better get comfortable.